Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 111 of Speaking from the Heart. And it's about evolution. It's about the vast opportunities that lie ahead. It's about us being able to understand that when we evolve, we have not only the things that we have yet to look ahead to, but also the things in which we might be able to help others to also look ahead. These are some of the things that we can do to not only help us understand how we can grow, but also how we can achieve success in today's episode. And yes, this is building upon what we've talked about in episode 109, in which I mentioned the fact that our relationships are the most important thing in order for our businesses to evolve. But now, since we talked about our businesses in that past episode, let's talk about you, the personal individual that you are, and how we can fit this context of how we can evolve into this ever-changing world, into our own framework, in which we're able to learn and grow in a way in which we might have never thought possible. I'm sure you've already dismissed the fact that you're never going to evolve, and you're about ready to tune out on this episode after listening to just a minute. And don't worry, I'm watching you. I know how long you've been listening to these episodes. Stop cutting me off at just 1 minute. Because let's face it, there's so much more than what meets the surface of just 1 minute. And even if you do consider the fact that many people don't want to talk about this topic at all and just avoid something like this altogether, maybe you might want to ask them to tune in into this episode, because the strategies that we might talk about might resonate with some of the people that might be resistant to constant change. Every time that we set up New Year goals, which, by the way, have you been doing well in your goals? Those might be ways in which we can check in to make sure that we're making that meaningful stride, to be able to evolve into a cosmos of our own kind. Whether we want to be a cosmos or not, we oftentimes are pushed into situations in which we have to evolve. We have no choice. Especially in the society that we live in today, I'm sure that many of us can relate to the fact that we have to be able to grow. We have to be able to learn to adapt to the variety of different changes that are occurring, whether that is from an economical standpoint in which we're cutting back, but maybe to even new skills for that matter. AI, artificial intelligence, being one of them. When you think about the fact that with all these things happening all at once, what are some areas in which we can create meaningful strides to be able to have that evolving change? I think that important question helps us to understand the opportunities that will help us to circle around, not only becoming more proactive, but being insulated to many of the negative changes that usually happen, because it's all about mindset. There's varying amounts of thought and even discussion from the coaching community about what that even entails. So even if you want to talk about today the importance of learning and growing from a variety of different perspectives when it comes to your own mindset, keep in mind that every person's mindset ultimately starts from being a child, which one of my guests, which will be coming up here in a future episode, talks about the 3 seats that we sit in. The opportunities in which we might be able to learn a little bit more about why we sit in each of those chairs, which I won't go too much into today, but I'm just going to leave it with this. Maybe with some of the things that we talked about, even in a previous episode about our childhood, have severe ramifications about the ways in which we're able to navigate through these challenges. Being able to evolve doesn't necessarily mean writing down what we are today and then what we want to be tomorrow and comparing it, seeing if we're making that percentage gain. How boring. Ugh. I'm sure that many of you are even letting out an audible ugh, because I know that that might be frustrating. Because who wants to do that kind of work? Well, let's do it this way. Think of an image in your head of what you would look like if you have been able to evolve. Evolution can come in many different strides. We even talked about in the previous monologue episode about the importance of looking at your business from a variety of different angles. Your branding, your ability to look at the bigger picture, bringing other people in that will help you to think along the lines of what you're trying to achieve. But what if you were able to draw a mind map or even a mind picture for that matter, or even use AI for that matter, which the variety of different things available from DALL-E, you could create that image in your head. What would it look like to be successful? Whether it's in the physical assets, whether it's in the mind picture that you have of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, what is the feeling that is connected with it? And I want you to just spend a second to think about that, even if you have to pause the episode. Think about what that would look like in your mind of all the different things that you have available to you as a result of achieving success. That success that you create inside of you. All those things just manifesting into this wonderful picture of who you are now, which not even is close to what you might have been writing out or even picturing, especially as you created this image of yourself. I know that seems a little sad because you're not there. It might be a little depressing to wake yourself up from reality and now know that you're not there. But not all hope is lost. The whole purpose of even having coaches, for that matter, is to understand that we are looking at a mindset of today that is holding us back to help us understand what we can do to become a bigger, brighter version of ourselves down the road. It means understanding and creating the opportunities, especially in even challenging times, to learn and prosper from the different ideas that we can bring to the table. And how many times have we brought these ideas to the table, which I know some of you have, but you haven't acted on them yet? What's holding you back? What's really holding you from the opportunity to see yourself evolve into something else? And that's something that I really want to explore in this latter part of this episode, which is about the concept of fear. I think that fear is what really holds us back from not only achieving the values that we want to ultimately have, but also the success that we can ultimately see right in front of us. Whether it's a good, whether it's a bad, whether it's something in between. I think that regardless of what we see, no matter what kind of changes are happening, regardless of what things mean, if we're taking those strides in the right direction, means that we have to understand the building blocks that we're standing on. Because if they're not built from the right material, that's why fear will creep in. Now, those building blocks that I'm talking about mean that you actually have to construct things that allow you to move from one place to another. I talked about in the last monologue episode about the importance of relationships. Those are really the biggest foundations that I will argue to the very end of time will help you get to the next point in another. And I know this guy who's talking to you right now that doesn't do a good job of that sometimes, and I'm working on that. Yet at the same token, when we look at the other side of the coin, relationships are only just one component of it. On the other side of that coin, you have to look at all the things that help to contribute to that success. Whether those are people might be just one consideration of the overall solution. It might be the money that you need to have, the capital that you need to invest in something, whether that's buying a house, whether it's to be able to get groceries, whether it's even being able to buy that trailer that you always wanted to have so you could take those road trip adventures across the country. All those have to have some kind of plan behind it. Being able to create those meaningful strides, though, means being able to walk yourself back and forth into the existence of knowing that one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 30 days from now, but maybe 6 months to a year or even longer, that you're going to be able to achieve things. It's almost as if you're getting a college degree. It takes a long-term plan of 4+ years, although for many cases it's usually 5 for the traditional degree, to be able to achieve that piece of paper in order to have those designations necessary for you to achieve success. All those things, I know that for many of us, can be very daunting. And even today's cultures, moving away from the paper degrees and allowing us to get actual skill, to be able to apply that skill almost immediately to the variety of different challenges that exist not only in today's culture, but in the industries that we're trying to serve. But the strategies to allow us to grow, regardless of whatever's shifting, means that you have to overcome your fear. I can tell you of numerous examples of clients that I've had or continue to work with, along with the variety of different people that I interact with on a daily basis, about the importance of not only looking at and staring fear in the eye, but when you know that that fear is coming, what are some ways in which we can process it? We actually walk through in my coaching about what that fear looks like. What is the worst case scenario that could occur? And try to develop strategies so that those fears are not necessarily standing in your way, but you can at least acknowledge them because they will always be present. We want the relationships to be healthy, but we also don't want them to be unhealthy either. Because when we're feeling unhealthy, and I've even mentioned this on previous episodes, we will start to feel sick in the physical sense, but also the mental sense. And I can't tell you how many times of people that I've known, even myself included, that have walked down that slippery slope about not feeling good about ourselves, let alone each other for that matter. Fear is a nasty 4-letter word that I think paralyzes us to the core and oftentimes creates the stigma of not being able to do our very best. When we are trying to work on our very best, it means that we have to overcome some of the challenges that exist. It means being able to understand and capitulate in a variety of different ways how we can overcome that. It means talking out a variety of different things that might not ever come to existence, but know that we are able to overcome them in order to become more evolved. That is why we're working on these things and becoming so much better at them at the same time. Growing regardless of the challenges means that we have to have a mindset that not only dispels fear, but the fear itself can be used as energy to help ourselves grow in a variety of different ways. Think of it like public speaking. There are so many times that I've told clients, and even have heard stories from other Toastmasters for that matter, of using fear as a way in which they're able to express themselves in ways in which they never thought they could ever express themselves in. Whether that's singing, whether that is doing a choreography of a dance, or maybe even doing something that is so completely common, but yet they were so afraid to do it themselves. Acknowledging that there is something that is sitting amongst us is sometimes the fear that hides behind it. It's in disguise. It's so disguised that sometimes we don't even see it when we're walking by. But yet when we're able to acknowledge it and we're able to make meaningful strides towards it, we are now scaring the crap out of what fear really is. Those are the things that if we're able to build the blocks of the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, that's going to allow us to climb to higher heights. It's going to allow us to do the things that we normally don't do. And those are usually the hard skills that we learn. But if you think about it, the soft skills, the things that we learn even as a child, being able to communicate, being able to say please and thank you, be able to have the right dialogue with other people, is oftentimes lost in translation from one generation to the next, which have different ideas of how to utilize it. It's not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It can be a good thing in some context. But oftentimes the negative consequences outweigh the positive. Which is why it's sad when we see a new generation losing some of the things that even previous generations have even fought for even their consideration to be able to become better than they already are. They've already done the hard work, those previous generations, but yet the new generations just don't know how to utilize those skills that they're learning to become better in the grand scheme of things. Our competitive advantage depends on the ability for us to not just build blocks that help us to traverse the different obstacles that face us, whether there are rivers or valleys or streams or even mountains. It means engaging in a proactive conversation about the fears that we have, not only intrinsically, but extrinsically as well, to be able to learn how to communicate them and capitulate them in a way in which they are no longer standing in our way. If you can get to the core of that strategy, You can grow regardless of anything that is ever moving forward or moving us backward for that matter. You can stop things in their tracks if you know how to evolve into a better person. It doesn't mean that you have to stop everything and learn a new skill today. And it doesn't mean that you have to go find 5 people and figure it out in a small group of, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? Some of the damage that might have been already done might not be able to be reversed, at least in the short term. But again, as I even mentioned in episode 109, it's about what you can do in the long term. So here we go. We're ending this episode almost in the same way that we started it from the other episode, with the same tact that fear is nothing to fear. We do not have to have all these concerns on our plate that weigh us down, almost like a dead weight. We have to just learn that sometimes those thoughts are the manifestations of the things that we fear the most, and sometimes they're disguised in ways in which we're not capable of understanding today, but we'll be able to understand tomorrow. Progress comes when we learn that fear is nothing that could stand in our way. We can learn how to adapt and evolve if we're just willing to challenge ourselves in the ways in which we don't look at things negatively, but we don't necessarily always have to look at them positively, too. All we have to do is just look at them differently, from a different perspective. And that's how we're able to evolve consistently, time and time again. Because let's face it, if you look at all the things that we've been able to ever do in this world, it's all because someone else had a different perspective. Instead of looking at the cup half full, maybe they looked at it half empty. And they were also able to solve some of life's challenges, let alone create human evolution that has been tested time and time again and has been the most successful of all success. I believe in you and your success to evolve, and that is what counts the most. Thanks for listening to episode number 111 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.